It's not easy winning championships. It's not easy to bring a young guy in or a new guy in and all of a sudden come in and dominating the league. I think basketball coaching is all about teaching. Yeah, it's really important that you not just teach basketball skills. It's about teaching life values as well. Everybody knows that we run the triangle, but it's not the same triangle that it was in the 1980s or the 1990s or even 2000. That has totally evolved through the years as well. Young coaches come in with new ideas and new things, and it's a constant challenge. And that's what makes the game so fun and so engaging, and why an old guy like me can still, keep interested and have fun with it.
Welcome to the game halftime, where we dive into the mindset of champions on and off the court. Today, it's a very exciting day. We have the most accomplished, the winningest coach in the history of the Philippine Basketball Association, and perhaps the whole of Philippine basketball. He's currently the head coach of Gilas Pilipinas and Barangay Ginebra San Miguel in the PBA, 25 PBA championships, two Grand Slams, and five Coach of the Year citations. It's built a legacy defined by excellence in coaching and leadership, and of course, has a lasting impact on Philippine basketball. Please welcome the legendary Tim Cone.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been around a long time, so
Yeah.
I hope I won a few championships along the way because I've been around a long time.
Coach, I'd like to ask, I'd like to start with a non-basketball question. Obviously, you've been around the game since the 1980s. I'm dating myself as well.
That
Yeah.
old, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Started
Started out,
1989 was
yeah.
my first year.
You started out in vintage as an analyst, right?
88.
Very much basketball's in your lifeblood. It's been part of your life. But how do you spend your off days? What's the day off like for Tim Cone?
Gee, I think the number one thing I try to do every day, believe it or not, is I either try to play tennis or golf or take a long walk. So it's something that I do physically. I want to get out and I think that keeps me a little young and keeps me moving. And when I play tennis, my heart rate gets up there a little bit, and when I play golf, I get a little bit of relaxation, a lot of frustration, but also relaxation. But generally, I try to do that, and then it used to be my wife and I would go to movies 2 or 3 times a week, but that was before pandemic. Now we don't do it as much. Now we stay home and watch a lot of Netflix and whatever. But basically, my days are dominated. You only see me in the games. We have the practices every day. We have the game, but in the evenings also we're constantly watching the games of the other team. So that was always the rule in our family, and even with my kids, they would know that on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, there was no going out. I had to be home watching basketball games, and so that was like the rule all the time. So I had to be home to watch games every night.
But what about the off season, coach, when there's no PBA, no games on Wednesdays, Sundays, and Fridays?
And probably a little bit more golf and tennis. We like to travel a little bit. My kids are now all in the United States. I got two, one in Washington D.C., one in San Francisco, one going still in college in North Carolina. So we go out and visit them as much as we can. But my wife and I, we like to travel and try to do as much traveling as we can when we have the opportunity, which is not very much in the PBA because we're playing 11 months out of the year. And since I've become the Gilas coach, every time we have a break from the PBA, it's Gilas time. So we've had very little time to travel together. That's why sometimes she goes on our Gilas trips with me, just so we can have that time together.
How's your golf game, coach? What's your
Terrible.
handicap? Terrible.
It's one of those things you always try to make it better and never gets good. It's really good, of course, in the PBA is George Gallant.
George Gallen, yes,
George
I've
is
heard.
just amazing, amazing golfer, and I mean, I'm not even. He does, I'm a little speck on the windshield for him. I mean, I'm not even close to what he is all about. But I enjoy the game, and I get to play with Chot Reyes, occasionally. Chut's also very good, and but you know, by and large, I try to do it after practice. I'll go out and get 9 holes when I can, and but I'm not very good. I'm not very good in tennis either, but I still like to play it.
What's your favorite course? Do you have a favorite course here in Manila?
I'm a member of the Alabang Country Club, so I live in Alabang, so I've been playing there for 20, 30 years, and I really enjoy it. But I love going around to different courses around the country, and I think that's one of the funnest part of golf.
So, coach, it's well known that you're a triangle guy in coaching, and also that you've also spoken about your admiration for Coach Baby Dalupan, the maestro. But in your words, what was your core philosophy as a coach?
Well, we talk about that kind of a lot with the team. You know, it's you know, we try to keep our team very culture based. We want to live a culture. We want I want our players to feel a certain way when they walk into the gymnasium every day. When they come to work every day, we want them to feel a certain way. We want them to come in and get an idea. So we have what we call a four core values. We put four core values together. Yeah, number one is for us it's defensive first mindset. So we do that because we feel that defense defines our character. Offense, anybody can do. Everybody loves to do offense, but the defensive part of the game is the selfless part of the game. And so, number one is defensive mindset because we want to be a selfless team. We want to be a high character team. Number two, attention to detail is really crucial for us. We want to be attentive to detail in everything that we do. And then from that attention to detail, we want to be accountable. So accountability is our third one. That's very important. And then we want to be a chemistry-based team. So compassion is something that's very important to us. Being compassionate to what your teammates doing. And what they're going through, and making sure that you have a empathic feel for your teammate all the times. So it's those four: defense, mindset, and then attention to detail, accountability, and then compassion.
Would you say that this also applies to your personal life as well, your personal philosophies?
I think so. It's funny. My family always thinks that I'm coaching them. My kids always, Dad, stop coaching me. Because I have a tendency I feel like that's the way that the life is all about. You have to be a high character person. Um, you have to be attentive to what you do, details of what you do every day. You have to have that accountability around it, and you have to have great compassion. And I think that if you can bring that to your everyday life, and this is something we try to teach our players, it's not just about basketball, but it's about life as well. And we hope that if our players grasp onto that, they'll become better people, better fathers, better brothers and sisters, better sons, and better friends to the people that they're around.
Yeah, there's a term for that. You're not just a teacher of players, you're a teacher of men. So you think that would apply to what you're doing?
Well, I think basketball coaching is all about teaching, yeah, and I think it's really important that you not just teach basketball skills. It's about teaching life values as well.
And of course, I mentioned earlier, you're the longest tenured PBA coach right now, if I'm not mistaken, because Norman Black isn't the head coach anymore. So you'd be,
Oh, even then, I think that I've coached longer in the PBA than Norman because Norman went to Ateneo for a long time. Yeah, I've been in the PBA. I think it's 36 years now. I'm going on my 36th year, so continuously, so without stopping.
what changes in the game have you seen? What's the biggest change from 1989 to 2026?
Basketball is very cyclical. It goes up and down. When I first came into the league in 1989, people were scoring 135, 140 points a game. I remember leading the league. We were leading the league in defense um, with 112 points a game. And the big thing for us was holding teams under 100. And we used to get a bonus for holding teams under 100. Very small one, but it was just something I created for the team because that was just, again, we wanted to be defensive minded and we wanted to have that high character. So from the very beginning, that was really important to us. So, um, you know, at that point, it was a very offensive oriented league, really up and down. Imports would score, 60, 70 points a game, but we felt the only way when we started with Alaska, we weren't quite as talented as a lot of other teams, so we had to find a different way to win, and at that point, it was really being more defensive minded, than other teams. So, that's the way we started, and then at that point, the scores started coming down a little bit. And then there was a time, even if you look at the old Chicago Bulls and Detroit Pistons time, where the game was incredibly physical. You look at the Ginebra time during Sonny Jaworski's time, the game was incredibly physical. It was really difficult to maneuver oftentimes and get high, so the scoring really dropped and went down. And then now, over the last 10, maybe they introduced the 3-point line, and then the 3-point line got emphasized. Analytics came into the game. People started seeing it was more valuable to get down the court quickly and see if you could get to shoot threes quickly. So we went through that period for a while. Now it's cycling back, I think, a little bit more towards ball movement and tempo. So it just kind of you see it all, and it just kind of comes starts this way, goes up, it comes back, and it just keeps coming around all the time. So I I seen a lot, and you have to really grow with the times. You can't get stuck back in the 80s or 90s or 2000, and you won't survive. So you have to just continually keep evolving as the game evolves. The rules change a little bit. The way the referees calls the game changes as well. So again, it's just all about evolving as you move forward.
You mentioned that you have to evolve, and you've certainly evolved. You won a Grand Slam with Alaska, Grand Slam also with San Mig Coffee, so with totally different personnel and different skill sets. So how have you managed to navigate, these changes in the basketball landscape?
Well, when I say you have to evolve, you also there are fundamental values that you have to keep with your game as you continue to evolve. I mean, again, that idea that we're going to be defense, we keep our values. We're going to be defensive minded. We're going to be attention to detail. All that doesn't change, but how we apply it to what's going on, we may understand. The way we defend might change because of the way the game has been. The way the game has evolved. So we're not defending the same way we were, uh, you know, 20 years ago or 30 years ago. But we still are very fundamentally sound. There are certain fundamentals that we focus, and again, those things don't change. Offensively, you know, everybody knows that we run the triangle, but it's not the same triangle that it was in the 1980s or the 1990s, or even 2000. That has totally evolved through the years as well, and we run it a lot differently. The patterns are the same. Um, the things we look for are oftentimes the same, um, but the tempo may be different. We have more counters now than we used to have. It's not as basic as it was in the past. So that offense also evolves. So there's a constant evolvement going on both sides of the ball. And again, young coaches come in with new ideas and new things, and you got to adapt to those things as well. So it's a constant challenge, and that's what makes the game so fun and so engaging, and why an old guy like me can still keep interested and have fun with it.
Yeah, you mentioned the young coaches coming in, but if you look at the PBA landscape right now, okay, aside from you, there's Coach Yeng Yao, Coach Chot Reyes, Coach Norman up until recently, and even Coach Leo Austria has been coaching for 20 plus years. So it's like the same core of guys, coaches who have been head coaches in the PBA all these years. Not that it's a bad thing, but what do you think that says about Oh, the league.
Look at the championships each coach has won. I mean, if it ain't broke, why fix it? And that's very true in basketball. And it's not easy winning championships. It's not easy to bring a young guy in or a new guy in, and all of a sudden come in and dominating the league. Um, I think there's some really good young coaches that have come through the league, and there's been some foreign coaches that have come through the league. Um, but by and large, the constants, you look at the success Yang Yao's had in terms of developing players, not just winning championships, but developing players. All the players he has developed and become from nowhere to somewhere. I mean, they've really become stars. You just one person just off the top of my head is Nokum. He was really, nobody really paid much attention to him in college. He came into the Yang Yao system and has become a superstar. And that he's just one of many that Yang has done. Chart Reyes, the championships that he has won, his success in Gilas and the World Cup in 2014 was unparalleled. Norman Black, through all of his championships through San Miguel and Ateneo, and Leo with all of his all Filipino championships. So, if you can stay successful in this league, you're going to have longevity. And like I was just said as a joke in the beginning, I've been around a long time. If I don't win championships, the fact that I've won a lot of championships is a function of my longevity. If I haven't won any championships, I wouldn't be around this long. Those guys are proven winners, and I think you see the same thing in the NBA. These coaches stick around because they have success. But there's always going to be that young coach that steps in. Right now, I think Charles Chu is making a big impact in the league at this point, and will continue to. And this is only his first conference. I think he's got tremendous potential to be, one of those coaches that lasts for 20, 30 years if he decides to stay in the league that long. And there's other coaches as well. That's just one I'm talking about.
Aside from coaching the PBA, you're also right now the head coach of Gilas Pilipinas. I imagine that's a different kind of pressure compared to coaching Barangay Ginebra. I'm not gonna ask which is more pressure packed, but how is it different compared to coaching the PBA?
Well, that's one thing about coaching Gilas is that being a coach of Ginebra has kind of prepared me for coaching Gilas because Ginebra is such a huge fandom. There's so many fans, so many Ginebra fans. I never experienced that quite with Alaska. I got a little bit more experience with the Pure Foods organization. They were a popular team, but going to Ginebra was a whole new level of. I don't really like the word pressure. I don't really ever feel pressured, but I know there's a certain level that you need to do to satisfy the fans, and I think that kind of has prepared me for Gilas because I think generally most of the fans and I'm sorry for all the other teams, but most of the fans in the country are Ginebra fans. So coaching the Gilas is everybody's a Gilas fan. So it's pretty close, and it's not so much the amount of fans or the pressure from the fans or such. It's really the level of competition. That's the difference between Gilas and the PBA. Uh, Coaching internationally against high-level European teams and Australia, New Zealand, the high-level Asian teams like China, Japan, and Lebanon. Those are incredible teams, and you're going against incredible coaches. The level of competition is so high, and the margin for error is so low, and you get so few shots at it. In the PBA, it's continually. You're doing it all year. If you don't win today, you don't win this. You have another one coming up, another game coming up. The windows in the international are so few and far between that they're going back to that word pressure. There is that pressure that builds just for those two games, and there's no margin for error. If you're not having a good night that night, then you don't have the next night to make up for it like you do in the PBA.
Yeah, it's like shorter tournaments, right? So a lot of win or go home scenarios
Correct.
in FIBA competitions. But is there anything that you picked up from all of those FIBA competitions? Maybe a play that a foreign coach ran against you, or how they approach a game that you were able to bring back to the PBA?
All the time, all the time, and I think that's one of the fascinating parts about being with the Gilas team. And I saw that when I was assisting Chot Reyes earlier, and he's always been a coach that's come in with a lot of new inventions and done certain things that are differently from a lot of other coaches, and you can see those innovations that he has gotten that come from Gilas, and so that's definitely, yeah, you go and you play Australia, you see the way they execute, you see the way they defend. Um, like New Zealand has a culture, way of rebounding. They call it tagging up, and they're the only country in the world that really does it. Although now suddenly the NBA is starting to talk about it, and some of the teams are starting to tag up a little bit, but just very few. But New Zealand's have been doing it for a generation, and it's very unique to what they do. And we had to realize what they were doing so that we could combat that because it was something that we had never seen before. It's a rebounding technique that they and transition defense that they do that's very unique. Like I said, it's starting to catch on in the NBA, and there's some pluses and minuses to it, just like anything else you do. But they do it from the elementary up to middle school, up to high school, college, pro. Every team you see in New Zealand does it, and it's really unique, and it's really fun to see that. So, things like that, was things that you would never experience unless you were playing internationally and have that opportunity. I also have had opportunities like to be with the Miami Heat in different times, and I've brought a lot of what they do, uh, especially on the defensive side, back, and I've had chances to go watch the Lakers and be with Tex Winter and Phil Jackson and uh, and that was where I really delved into the triangle. They ran the triangle as well, so I've had opportunities. It's been a real blessing in my 35, 36 years. I've had opportunities to meet and reach some high level coaches and learn and mentor from them.
Coach, before you came along, like the gold standard for PBA was the great baby Dalupan.
Still is he still is the gold standard.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because the Coach of the Year award is obviously named after him. And again, you've mentioned several times that you admired him, you looked up to him. But what was your biggest takeaway from his coaching philosophy that helped you in your path?
I didn't get to know Baby until later in his life after he'd already retired. Maybe the last 6 or 8 years of his lifetime. And I got to know the daughters, and we became real close. And it was just a real honor to be a part of that family. Funny you should mention that because I was talking to Norman Black, who had the opportunity to coach against Baby and play for Baby a couple times, and I was kind of drilling him about that. I grew up, to be honest with you, I grew up a Toyota fan. So, I watched Toyota from the time I was like 9 years old. Actually, it was the old Moralco Mika team and first, and then they transferred, kind of became the Toyota team. And so I was a big Toyota fan. I was the anti Crispa fan. I didn't like Crispa, but I had great respect for Baby because Baby always beat Toyota. And so I was kind of like a love-hate relationship with Baby back in the day. But of course, then I got to know him later on. So, but the thing I asked Norman about him, and he said the thing that Baby was just so good about, he understood, the flow of the game. It was just the game was so instinctive to him. And he was such an instinctive coach, knew when to play who, he knew when to rest who, he knew, according to Norman, he knew there were times when he would give teams days off because he knew that they were going to have a good practice. There wasn't a lot of systems and stuff back then, and he coached instinctively, and he had obviously the best instincts of any coach alive, especially at that time, but maybe even now. Um, and I think that was what really made him great was he trusted his instincts and really understood the game. And people talk about the 15 championships he's won in the PBA, but he's won like 40 championships outside the PBA. So, he has a war chest of about 55, 58 championships that he keeps that he's been a part of. So that's just unimaginable. And that's why he still is the gold standard. He's the father of Philippine basketball coaching.
Yep. 8 straight UAP titles actually, maybe Dalupan, and then two championships at Ateneo and the NCAA, Mika. Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah, the list goes on and on. And actually, one of his former players, I think it was Box Arenado, said they only had ran 4 plays in Crispa, but they won all those championships. So, like I mentioned, he's more of an instinctive coach. But what about you, Coach? What's more important to you, developing strategies or developing your players, the individual skills?
Well, I've said this publicly very often that I don't feel like I'm a very good strategic coach. Um, that's not my strength. My strength is developing chemistry, developing relationships with players, um, maybe motivating, things like that. I'm not a great strategic. That's one of the reasons I run the triangle because it's a full blown system that I don't have to continually adjust and during the course of a game. And then that allows me to really focus on the defensive side. Uh, and then defense for me is all about habits and fundamentals. So again, I'm not a big adjustment coach. Obviously you have to make adjustments sometimes and you can't go fully without, but I generally try to stay within the system of what we do offensively and defensively. And I kind of rely on my assistant coaches to be the strategic ones. Richard Del Rosario is our strategy coach. He's the one that really, comes up and really suggests adjustments to me, tries to come up with strategies against certain teams. So I rely on him to do a lot of that stuff. For me, it's really about controlling the system, teaching the system, and creating chemistry amongst the players.
Okay, Coach, let's now look into the future. First of all, what kind of legacy would you like to leave behind for Philippine basketball?
Well, I'd like to go to the World Cup. That's for darn sure. And even better would be go to the Olympics. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that, but that's really the legacy I would like to leave more than anything else. The championships are great, and hopefully they'll stand the test of time. But records are made to be broken, so those are important to me. But really, the idea of taking Gilas, the national team, to another level. That's what we're really working for, and that's what I'd like to leave behind. But more than that, it's just I want my players to continually have a relationship and to be able to look back and say they enjoyed and they learned and not only about the game, but they learned about life, being a part of the team that I coached. So those are really ultimately the most important things. But if I had to, set certain goals, it's really, can we get to the World Cup? And then from the World Cup, can we get to the Olympics? And that's what I hope, we'll find out over the next year, whether we'll be able to do that.
And what about Philippine basketball? How do you see Philippine basketball in the next decade?
It's growing leaps and bounds. I mean, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, having a national team that has a 7'3" talented center in Kai Soto, a 6'11", power forward center in Jumar. We had Japeth Aguilar, who was 6'9", 6'10". I mean, and those guys were pure Pinoy. I mean, they're not Philams, they're not anything. We had 3 guys that are near 7 feet that are pure Pinoy. Then you add some of the the Philams, QMB, AJ Edu. So we have a team of a Gilas team of 5 guys They're all 6'10" or better. And it's just hard to imagine 10 or 15, 20 years ago that we'd ever have anything like that. So that size, and that's always been our bugaboo through the years, is that we've always been too small. Why do we play basketball when we should be playing other sports? And um, but suddenly, we have guys that can compete on the world stage in terms of size and talent, and that's so unique. And I'm just, that's an amazing statement for Philippine basketball. I mean, we've always been talented in terms of skills and athleticism, but it's only the size that has held us back. And we have I remember when we played Latvia and beat Latvia in Latvia with Kai, and it was on the team, and Jumar. And after we beat Latvia, uh, the head coach, who was Spanish, had a press conference, and they asked him, why were we able to upset them? And he said it was because we couldn't handle the size of the Philippine team.
I remember that.
I mean, that's amazing. They couldn't handle our size. So, hopefully we get Kai back, and he comes back to the team, and we get to include him with Q, MB, and AJ, Edu, and Junmar, and we could continue to do some special things. Beating Latvia was special. Beating New Zealand was special. And there was a common factor in that, is that both those games, we had Kai. And so obviously Kai is a big part of what we need, and what we need to have to have the success that we want. But that's hopefully still ahead of us at this point.
Coach Tim Cone, always a pleasure talking to you. Lots of great insights as usual. Any final message for your fans out there and fans of Gilas and Barangay Ginebra?
Well, we're always battling, and we're always battling for the fans. It's just really special being a coach of Ginebra. We all feel it in the locker room. The players feel it. Management understands it. It's just a special thing to be a part of the whole Ginebra legacy, the Sonny Jaworski legacy, the Never Say Die legacy. And it's a tough thing to live up to over and over and over again. But I think our guys really go out there and try their best, and and through that we try to bring that same attitude towards the Gilas program as well. And I think guys are really starting to latch on to that as well. So hopefully we can continue to bring some thrills to the Ginebra crowd, and hopefully do that for the whole country. That's the big time goal that we all have, and I think we're growing to that.
Thank you very much, Tim Cone, for gracing the game halftime. It's really great, again, talking to you and catching up.
It's always my pleasure, man. It's always my pleasure being on. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Game Halftime. Don't forget to subscribe and follow The Game for the latest updates on your favorite athletes and icons in the world of sports and lifestyle.